Hello everyone, I'm going to show you kind of a basic run through of the N400, how you're going to fill it out, what questions to remember to ask your clients during the review, and stuff like that. So this is the N400. I would log into the portal that we actually use to show you how that works, but we don't have any sample accounts and I wouldn't want to expose anyone's personal information, especially our clients. So this is what you will review, or what it will look like when you review it on our website that's called Citizenship Works. It's not our website, but we use it to review the applications. They will be mostly filled out, but a lot of our clients come to the workshop to help to get help with knowing exactly what information they need to fill in. So what you need to remember, first of all, is that it is very important for our clients to be completely honest and truthful when filling out this form. It is a federal document and it is illegal to lie on a federal document, so just make sure that you feel like the client is being truthful with you when they're filling in this form. So this 9-digit number is something that will appear on their green card, so they should have that information, and you fill it in and make sure it is filled in correctly. Repeat the number back to your client so they can confirm it, so that that is correct on every page of the form. It is also important that they click their accurate option here, that they include their names exactly how they appear first on the green card and as their current legal name, and to make sure they include any name that they have had previously before marriage, or if they've ever changed their name. This information is also important. Please make sure that their date of birth is correct and the day that they became a lawful permanent resident. It is also great to make sure that your client is or is not eligible for the English exemptions. You can read over these, the criteria to be exempted of the English part of the test. They still have to take the test, they just would take it in their native language. So just look over this and make sure that your client isn't one that falls under this. We will also make sure, but it is good for you to know just in case they have any questions about that. You can confirm just by reading this part. Make sure that your client doesn't have any disabilities that would be able to help them with this process. The disabilities, they would have to apply for a waiver that would let the officer know of their disabilities and kind of how to accommodate for them. Make sure that all of this information, as much as possible, can be filled. If they only have one phone number, try to put it in both daytime, evening, and mobile or work phone, and that they include an email address as well. The information about their residence, it should be pretty easy to fill out. If they have been living there for more than 5 years, this is the only residence that they need. But if they have only, for example, been living there for 1 year, you need to make sure that you have all of the residences that they have been in for the past 5 years. They can use this portion, which is the current mailing address, to provide a different address than their current residence to maybe receive the USCIS letters from once they apply. It can be useful for people who plan on maybe moving or anything like that. Like I said, if their current address is a place where they have lived for 5 years or more, you don't need to fill out any more information. But if they exceed addresses more than 4, there is an option on the Citizenship Works website that we use to review the applications where you can add another address. It should be right here in this corner, but obviously the USCIS website doesn't include that as an option. It is called an addendum. It's like just an additive to the form. So if their 4th address only goes up until let's say 2018 or something like that, you can add more addresses on the addendum on the Citizenship Works page. Make sure that they confirm whether or not their parents are US citizens. This is important just in case they were US citizens before your client was 18, then they need to be filling out a different form than this. The different form is called the N600. You would not have to review that form or anything. They would be directed to someone else for that. But if their parents were not, you are not U.S. citizens, you don't need to fill out in any of this information. And if they became U.S. citizens after they were 18, this information will be filled out. If you have any questions about that, you can just let us know. And try to make sure that this biographical information is completely accurate, and the ethnicity should match their driver's license. Their eye color should also match their driver's license. And then this is the portion where you need to fill in, or they should have filled in, all of the employers and all of the schools that they have attended for the last 5 years. It's important to remember that these dates should be cohesive, even if they were unemployed. So for example, we have a client who has been working since, let's say, October of last year, but for part of the pandemic, they were unemployed. Let's say from March until October, your client was unemployed. So in here, you would say unemployed. I usually add the client's address, and then you can say from March 5th, 2019 until October 15th, 2009, actually 2020, I apologize, I forget that we're in 2021 now, 2020. And then for occupation, you would just put none. And then you would fill in the rest of the information as the gaps are given to you. So the employment before this would be from March 4th, or from beginning date, maybe like February 2017. Try to include exact dates, and if not, there is a button that lets you check approximate for any clients who don't remember the exact dates. And the end date would be 3/4/2020, since they began their unemployment stage on the 5th. So the dates should be cohesive. There should not be any gaps, not even a day, just so that USCIS has all of that time accounted for. And you can put their employer's name. If they worked for a company, you'd put the company name. If they worked as like a nanny or a maid and it was not under a contract with a company, you can put the employer's name. For example, like Nancy Lee, something like that, was their employer, and you put in the address that they worked in. And make sure that if your client is a college student or anything like that, and they have worked both jobs and been at school at the same time, that you add both the schools and the jobs that they were in, and the months that they were in school and at their jobs. The school periods obviously might have some gaps due to breaks. Maybe they took a semester off. That does not have to be completely coherent, and you do not have to add if they were not students for a certain period of time. The only parts that need to be cohesive are the employments. So if they were unemployed, if they were employed, and make sure you include the time frame. Okay, so during this Part 9, it is important to remember that your client needs to have all of their travel dates. Every single time that they left the US for more than 24 hours in the last 5 years. They need to know every single time they left the country. Even if they were in Canada for 2 days, they need to know. Even if they went to Mexico for a total of, let's say, 28 hours, they need to know that you left and which country you went to. During this portion, CW does a good job at just like filling this part and this part in for you. So what you need is the day that they left, the day that they came back, and the country that they traveled to. Please, please, please stress to your clients that it is very important to have every single day, because USCIS could cause issues during their interview if they lie or if they keep out an extensive trip, or even just a trip, like I said, for more than 24 hours. It will save them a lot of headaches during their process if they just keep this honest, and basically the rest of the whole document honest as possible. This section is also very, very, very important. Make sure that they know that they need to be completely truthful. They need to have as much of the information filled out in this section as possible. If you have a student who's never been married, you just click single and you go through this without filling anything out. You basically skip through 2.5 pages. If they don't have any children, you don't have to fill in that either, another 2 pages. But if they do, if they have been married and if they do have children, this is very important. So if they've been divorced multiple times, you need to make sure that they know they need to have every single divorce included in this document. There is a way for you to add additional divorces in an addendum, again, like the residencies. It should be about here. And you can add more divorces if they've had multiple divorces, or if they've just been married once, you can put in their current spouse's information, and that should be everything that they need from their spouse. However, if their spouse has been married before, as in they were married to someone, they got divorced, and then they got married to your client, that information also needs to be added. If you see here, how many times has your current spouse been married? If you put 2, that means they were married to your client and 1 person previously. So you add that information here. They need to know if, USCIS needs to know if your client's spouse, their ex-spouse, is a US citizen, where they were born, when your client's spouse was married to them, when they got divorced. We know that it is very personal information. Just stress to your client that this is a federal document. This is the information that they asked for, and it is not for you or for our organization. It is for their benefit to be completely honest on this portion of the form. And like I said many times, the whole form itself needs to be filled out as much as possible when the information pertains to your client. So if you guys have any questions over the information of marital history, I know it is a little bit complicated, not too hard to understand. Just make sure that you take your time when you read through it, and kind of understand what the form is asking our client for. Okay, information about children. Even if your client is the stepfather of 4 or 5 children, their information needs to be on this form as well. Even if they are older than 18, even if they've been married for multiple years and they all have their own kids, they need to have this information filled out. So you will need the child's legal name, date of birth, country of birth. If they have an A number, they need to have this. If they do not have an A number and they were born in the States, they do not need to include this. If they have lived in a different country and never even touched foot in the United States, this also needs to have their information. Every child that they've ever had needs to be added onto this document, because USCIS would be able to find those records if they really looked for them. So please, please, please also stress to your client that every single bit of information about their children that this form asks for needs to be included. Even if the street address is something crazy, just ask them to spell it out for you. Let them know that USCIS will not go looking for them or anything. They just want to know. And this could help them in the long run if they ever want to ask to petition for their child that lives in a different country to come over here. So, for example, you have a client who has 3 kids, all born in the US, none of them have A numbers, and they all live with their parents. So this address should be the same address as your client's address, and just make sure to specify here what their child is: biological child, stepchild, or legally adopted. Another example would be your client has one child who does not live in the US, has never immigrated here. So the country of birth would be, for example, Mexico. You'd give them the name. And if they don't have an A number because they've never been here, you don't need to fill that out. And you need to put the address as the address in Mexico. Again, if your client has more than the amount of children USCIS gives you a slot for, a space for, there will be an addendum here where you can add more kids information. If your client is a divorced client and they have both stepchildren and biological children, they need to add both the biological children and the stepchildren to this form. Alright, so we are getting to the additional information about you. These are all the questions that, for most of our clients, do not apply to their situation, but you need to ask them anyways. This is a great time for you to gauge their English abilities. So make sure that if you have been talking to your client in their native language the whole call, you kind of let them know, hey, I'm going to ask you a couple of these in English, just to see how well you understand them in English. If you don't understand anything that I'm saying, let me know, and I can switch back to the language we were using previously. So, a lot of these questions might cause your client to be confused or even laugh, say, of course not, things like that. Just make sure that you read through all of the questions slowly if they need it. If they don't, just, breeze through them. But this information is important. So, things like, have you ever claimed to be a U.S. citizen? Have you ever registered to vote? Things like that. Your client should say no to all of these, except for, of course, this one if it applies, but usually it does not. This one is the title of nobility. If they have a title of nobility, then they might have some conflicting issues with becoming a citizen, but that should not apply to your client. These questions should be no, 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 because no one but a U.S. citizen is allowed to vote or even register to vote. So make sure that these questions are asked well and are answered accurately. Okay, so this part is important as well if they have ever owed state or local federal taxes. If you get a client that says yes, make sure to let us know. We will ask them further questions about their situation. There can be lots of reasons why they say yes. Some of them might be easily resolved, and some of them might not be. So just don't ask any too in-depth about this. Just ask them if they have ever owed taxes, or if they do owe taxes. If they do owe taxes. Just make sure to read these questions carefully. This next section is about any groups that your client may be a part of. Mostly it's church groups or any kind of organization that they have actively been a member of. They can add here. If they choose not to, it's not a big deal. It's nothing that USCIS looks into that much. They just want to make sure that anything that they participate is lawful and isn't anything destructive or anything like that. So that's why these questions are also asked. If you've ever been a part of the Communist Party, Totalitarian Party, or any kind of terrorist organization, that should all be no. Obviously, if they hesitate or if they ask you any kind of crazy question, just let us know. No need for you to go deeper into that with them. Just let them know that we will review that with them at a separate time. This part shouldn't apply to any of your clients because most of them were not born during this time. None of them should have been born during this time. So this should all be no. Yeah, and then these questions are all very specific. They are very important for you to ask the client. Please try to go through them one by one, but if you can in one breath say, have you ever been a part of genocide, torture, killing, or trying to kill someone? And they can answer no to all of those in one. It helps the situation go by faster. But if you want to go one by one, go ahead. If you want to make sure that they understand, it is better that way. So all of these questions need to be asked. There are some parts that are, if you answered yes, keep asking questions, but if they answered no, then there's no need to answer A or B, stuff like that. So if we keep going, this is the page that asks you about any kind of arrests, citations, any kind of criminal offenses. This is also very, very important that you make sure that the client is telling you 100% the truth, not keeping any information from you about their record. And this question, where is it here? This question can throw a lot of people off and cause them to think that they need to add some kind of traffic violation that they had to pay for, like if they ran a red light or if they parked on the wrong side of the street or something like that. They don't need to add traffic violations. What they do need to add, if they were ever stopped by an officer and given a citation, arrested, or detained by a law officer. This would be if they ran a red light and the officer stopped them and gave them a ticket, not if they were taken a picture of by a camera and then given a fine or something like that. It needs to be if an officer was present to give a citation. So, if they were speeding, if they had a broken taillight, if they were in a car accident, stuff like that. They need to be detailed here. As much information as you can possibly give. Why they were arrested, maybe ran red light, when they were cited, so last year. And this is for the entire time that they have been in the US. This is not for the last 5 years. This is if they have ever been committed, ever, of a crime, even if it's in another country. They need to divulge this information. Where you were detained, cited, arrested, charged, anything like that, and the outcome. So this could be that they did defensive driving and paid a fine. This could be that it was completely cleared and they went to court and they were not made to do anything. That information they need to have. Hopefully they have records of it. And if they don't, there needs to be a way for them to contact the courthouse, but if they need to do that, you just need to let us know and we will lead them towards getting those records. If they've ever been in jail, they need to make sure to add that. All of these questions, just read through them. If you have any questions about any of them, let us know. Read through them carefully and make sure that your client understands the question that is being asked as well. If we keep going, I know this is pretty long, but we are almost done. So these questions, again, are kind of like these, just a little bit more personal. So make sure that all of these are asked, that they understand them, again, and these show USCIS if your client is of good moral character. That's kind of what these questions are for. Sorry, I highlighted the whole page, but it's just these questions, A through I, kind of. And some of the other ones as well. But to show USCIS that you're a good moral character, you answer no to all of these. You should answer no to all of these. And then if you keep going, this has to do with deportation and any kind of false information given to the US government. Hopefully, all of these are no. There might be some instances where you have a yes here where it says removal proceedings. There is a way for clients to still apply. Obviously, they were given their green card, so they've been lawful permanent residents and were eligible because of the time here to apply for citizenship. You might get a client who 50 years ago they illegally crossed the border and were removed then. This does need to be included in their application. Again, this is not something for you to worry about on the day of the workshop. You just need to let us know, and we will make sure to talk to the client and make sure they have the resources that they need. This section is about armed forces. If your client has never been in the U.S. Armed Forces, all of this is a no. Every single question is a no. If your client has been in the armed forces, then you need to make sure that they answer these correctly. This portion only applies to males who lived in the U.S. between their 18th and 26th birthdays. So if they were here between their 18th and 26th birthdays, you say yes, and they should have a date registered for their selective service number. If they don't have it, for some reason, we can help them find it. You just need to let us know again. And we have reached the end of the information that you need to read through with your client. This is the last portion. It is kind of the them showing USCIS that they support the US. So you just asked all these questions to them, and if for some reason they are not able to bear arms for the US, for a reason like they are handicapped or they have a religion that forbids them to do so, there is also a way that you can add a note here to say why they would not be able to do that. And they would need proof of that, but we would take care of that after their review and before they send out their application. Okay, so we've gone through everything. These sections are more for afterwards. This is for when the applicant is ready to send out their application completely. An option that you can give all of the clients, unless we tell you that they are not eligible for us to help them turn in their application, they should talk to us first about that. But so that you know, just in case you are asked during the workshop, we give certain people the opportunity for us to help them to turn it in physically, turn in their application physically, along with the other documents that they need to complete this application. It is called representation. When we represent a client, this means that our name is attached to their application, our organization name and my supervisor's name is attached to the application, and we ensure that the client is given accurate information, has help throughout the process. We also get any letter that USCIS sends them in the mail. So this is very useful for a lot of our clients who need it, just that extra reminder. People who are older, people who might not keep great track of their mail, we text them and let them know when their appointments are, stuff like that. So if they ask that if we can help them to mail everything out, say you need to talk to one of the staff about that, and they will let you know if we are able to help you with that. Sometimes your client will just say, please send me this form, and I will send it on my own, and that is fine as well. We will try to reach out to them and see if we would be able to help them more with representation, but you can just leave that up to us. Like I said, this is the entire document. This is all you need to worry about. It is about 16 pages that you need to read out to your client. If they have filled out most of the application by themselves, it should not take more than 30 minutes for you to review the application with the client. It is very, very simple if they have all the information. Of course, it gets a little bit more difficult if they don't remember everything. Just make sure that they know that they have time to find it, but they need to make sure they send their application with all of the information that they can. Like I said, I'm going to be here, Jeanette's going to be here, and Tal is going to be here. For any questions that you might have, please let me know. You can also email me. It's not a super overwhelming document, but it does have a lot of bits and pieces that we all need to remember to be conscious of. If you do not feel comfortable taking the lead on a call, we are more than open to having you shadow a couple of times or even just once before you review an application yourself. But this first review is not the end-all be-all, so do not be nervous when reviewing. Just, read through the document as best you can and ask questions when you have them. Good luck, everybody.